Did you know that only 15% of people are truly self-aware? This was a study done by Tasha Urich, an organizational psychologist. But what I have discovered is that the building blocks to self-awareness lies in the ability to discern between truth and fact, something we talked about yesterday. Well, welcome to today's conversation, Unwrapping Courage, a gift for your soul this season. I am excited that you are here on day 9 of our 25 days of soul work. If you are new to this experience, welcome. My name is Jaleesa Dallas. I am an author, coach, and consultant where I help individuals and organizations cultivate courage. I do this by way of helping them to break barriers to their success, to bolster their belief with confidence, and build courageous behavior to optimize their life. And that looks like creating belonging internally and externally in community. And again, I'm excited that you are here for this conversation. One thing I do want to remind you of is if you have not already secured our complimentary resource where you can follow along with us on this journey, I encourage you to do so. You can find that at www.GoBraveLLC. Again, that's www.GoBraveLLC.com for you to be able to secure that resource. And one more ask, if you would like, comment, subscribe, and share, I would greatly appreciate it because again, only 15% of people are actually self-aware. So we want to make sure that we're self-aware. So, as we move forward in this conversation, that is a topic that we are talking about today. So, I want to first off talk about how to produce self-awareness or what producing self-awareness requires. And number one, that's inventory. And inventory is a factual assessment on who we are, essentially one's current characteristics or tendencies. And so I personally like to take a self inventory, let's just say every quarter, to see if my beliefs, values, my interests are the same or if they've evolved in some way. And I actually have a resource on my website at www.GoBraveLLC where you can actually find that self inventory called Elevate Your Confidence. So I encourage you to get that resource so that you can start to identify those beliefs, values, behaviors, attitudes that pretty much produce the trajectory to developing greater self-awareness. So that's number one, an inventory, specifically a self-inventory. Number two, introspection. That is a reflective process of exploring the inner workings and motivations behind those characteristics and tendencies that we talked about. Again, values, beliefs, interests, skills, even. So, introspection helps you to see what needs developing and cultivating. A lot of times we want to rush into a new thing or do things very quickly without taking the time to cultivate our personhood in order for us to be successful in the things that we are rushing into. So that's why introspection is important when it comes to self-awareness. Now, even in inventory and introspection, we don't want you to stay there for too long without action. So the next thing is influence. We want to know who is in your circle, externally or internally, like factors that include people, environments, or your beliefs that support or hinder your process of growth and change. We want to know who is a liability and who's an asset when it comes to your level of influence in your own life as you develop greater self-awareness. Who is supporting or hindering your process, again, of growth and development? So it matters your self-inventory, identifying those values, beliefs, interests, skills, introspection, digging deeper to cultivate those areas of your life. And then number three, the influence, whether that's internal influence as to how you are going to operate and function, and or external influence and how other people are allowing you or influencing, for lack of better words, your ability to navigate life and develop greater self-awareness. So these aspects, your inventory, introspection, and influence, give self-awareness an environment to thrive in. So what exactly is self-awareness? I'm talking about this and haven't quite really given a definition, but that's under the assumption that most of us know what self-awareness is. It's kind of self-explanatory because self meaning the person, awareness meaning insight, knowledge, a knowing, acquisition, information about self. And so I'll be more specific with a few bullet points as to what self-awareness is and how self-awareness is essentially cultivated. So it serves as the foundation of emotional intelligence. So for those who are familiar with emotional intelligence, it consists of 5 components where self-awareness is the first component before we actually get to the very end, which is relationship management. And in between that is self-management, motivation, and empathy. And so if you're interested in learning more about emotional intelligence, I too have another resource that is available on my website where I talk about allyship as it relates to emotional intelligence and being able to connect with and understand people's background, experiences, and their lives in order to effectively work together. And so you can find that also at www.gobravellc.com. Also, with self-awareness, it enables us to recognize our internal locus of control. And so you might be wondering, as typically I ask, your internal locus of control is essentially the areas for which you have control over. So if any of you all are familiar with Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, they have a book series called Boundaries. It's boundaries in marriage, in the workplace, with teenagers, children, whatever it may be. They have a book connected to boundaries and whatever circumstance you may be dealing with. And so in their initial book, where they're talking about boundaries on a general plane and giving kind of the introduction, they talk about boundaries in what we can control. So, for example, our feelings, attitudes and behaviors, beliefs, choice, values, limits, talents, thoughts, desires, and love. All of those we can actually control. So when we're talking about self-awareness, it enables us to recognize our internal locus of control. Furthermore, it lets us know that we can control ourselves, we can influence others, and then we just essentially have to adapt to certain situations. For example, it's been really rainy and gloomy here in Ohio, and I just have to adapt to it. So that's me putting on my rain boots, my rain jacket, and everything that comes into play when it's raining. Now, if I don't want to adapt, then I will find myself in flip-flops and shorts and a tank top. But as I'm sure you probably know, I would be probably sick with a fever and not being able to do anything because I chose not to adapt. So when we're talking about self-awareness, again, it's that space of being able to recognize our internal locus of control. Another area of self-awareness is that it allows integration of our personal and social identities. How do we show up in the world? I am African American with a partially indigenous background. And so with that, I show up in the world, as you can see, apparently as a certain way. And so my personhood and my social identity comes into play when it comes to self-awareness, and then also how I interact with people in that way. Also, with self-awareness, it includes our cultural and linguistic assets, the values that we contribute to the world because of our differences. Also, self-awareness strengthens our ability to foster honesty and confront biases. Additionally, self-awareness helps us to cultivate a growth mindset. I know a few episodes ago I talked about a fixed mindset. Now, a growth mindset is essentially a combination of 5 different elements. You have learning, you have progression, planning, effort, and feedback. Those components help us to develop a growth mindset, and it's foundational when it comes to self-awareness. And finally, self-awareness helps us to cultivate and fuel our purpose and self-efficacy, which is the belief that you can accomplish a goal. So in the grand scheme of things, self-awareness helps us to know more about who we are and thus equips us to be able to connect better with others. Now, in order to do that in its fullness, we would have to go through the entire process of what's called emotional intelligence, since self-awareness is the foundation of that, to gravitate into self-management, motivation, empathy, and then relationship management. And so as we wrap up today, I want you to keep in mind that self-awareness begins with discerning the difference between fact and truth. It's built on self-inventory, introspection, and recognizing our influence. It's the foundation of emotional intelligence, empowering us to understand our internal locus of control and integrate our personal and social identities. Self-awareness is such a benefit to us because the better able we are at knowing ourselves, the more easily we can navigate life with others. So I thank you for joining me for this conversation of 25 days of soul work, our unwrapping courage, a gift for your soul this season. So thank you so much, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with someone you know. And don't forget to get that complimentary resource at www.gobraveLLC.com. Have a great one. Until next time, let your soul work be your best work to a better you. Bye.